Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. First of all, I thought they were done outside working near my apartment because they were way down there working. Now they brought the cherry picker and all their crap back down here and they've just been banging away all day. So if you hear some banging and sawing, just like that, it's the guys working on the apartment. If they'd ever finish this, they've been working on this place for like 5 years. I wish they would just finish. But anyways, what was I going to do my video on today? Oh yeah, so I'm going to revisit the video games, specifically the computer and console games of the 80s. Because I found a really good list on YouTube, on Wikipedia. And it's funny, there's a few things I discovered by looking at this list. One is, now, it's interesting. Remember I said when I went to that computer store in 1985, it was, and it may, now that I'm thinking about it, it may have been early 1990, or 1986, but I think it was 85. It's right around there. But it's just funny how many computer games were out by that time. I mean, like I said, this place had like an entire wall of boxes, and another small wall, and then some stuff behind the counter, and they had all the boxes up there. And the thing that was crazy was you could, there's more than was on this list, but these are supposed to be the most popular games on computer and console from the 80s, supposedly. Now I kind of agree with the list, and I kind of like, I think they forgot a few things on there, but most of the heavy hitters are all there. And so what I did was, I'll show you the list on Wikipedia, but I also went through and I tried to find at least one decent picture of the box and put it all in a folder. So now it just kind of looks like that video store, all those boxes. Now some of them are console games, because like I said, once the consoles start coming out, with the exception of, I noticed they have a few Atari games on here, but the Atari games were also early PC games. And I don't see any ColecoVision, because remember, ColecoVision was supposed to be the arcade versions of games. So I don't see any ColecoVision on here. I don't see, I think I saw a couple of Odyssey games, and maybe as the console started to come out, like the NES and Sega, and I didn't save any of the Sega Master System specifically, but like I said, there's a couple of things I just noticed is interesting now that I look at this list and now I see this stuff, and it all kind of comes together. I think the biggest thing to take away from it is how many popular games came out in that time, and how their games came out after that. I mean, obviously I haven't got to the 90s. We've got Street Fighter, we've got Tomb Raider. We got a lot of games that came out in the 90s, especially as the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation 1 came out. But the 80s is like a lot of the classic games all came from the 80s. The other thing I noticed is how many games were ported over from a PC game to the NES specifically, and that's an interesting point. So I'm going to get to that. But first, let me just take a quick thing, because it's Christmas time. I got 3 packages today. So let's open them up. I know what's in them, but let's open them up and show you what my little haul is. I wasn't expecting all this stuff to come in. I still have, there should be one more package of thrift books coming, and then other book separate that I ordered in thrift books, and I think that's it for all my toys, or I'm sorry, all of my little packages. I didn't spend a lot, but I mean, I spent a couple of $100 in so far this year on stuff. So I think I'm going to hit the brakes right now and recoup some money, and kind of save on some stuff, because I've got a bunch of projects that I'm trying to get finished, and then another dump of new projects probably won't come in until maybe this March. And if they don't, hopefully they'll come in by April. But so I'm gonna try to watch it for March and kind of stay. It's the end of the winter. Last month, thank God. So I'm just gonna kind of hunker down and kind of, if there's something that I have to have, or it's not that expensive. I'll still pick up my comics at the comic shop. But if there's something that's just like, oh, I got it, I had to have it. I meant to seriously debate whether or not to buy it or not. But I think as far as like this stuff, I'm just gonna hold off for now. I used my free book dealio on this order too. I have one book in here and I have 3 more. So I got 3 books for the price of, or 4 books for the price of 3. I guess it's arbitrary because it just depends on how much the books cost. So this is another. Ooh, what's this? Oh, it's a wine voucher card. There's another Doctor Who one. This, of course, is the Horror of Fang Rock. So this would be the 4th storyline with Leela and the 4th Doctor. Sorry. Oh, now that smells like. Oh, that's used book smell. That's used bookstore smell. I'm gonna say that's sort of. Ooh, a little bit different there. It's funny, I can there's just the different notes. It's like a fine wine smelling books, and you can tell your mind instantly goes to certain bookstores, whatever, you name it. But got this one. I'm kind of reading, and including this one, because I got this on digital too. I've been kind of reading them all at once. I'm on like chapter 3 or 4 on the first 4. So, The Face of Evil, the Robots of Death, the Talons of Wang Cheng, and the Horror of Fang Rock. I'm kind of on like the 3rd to 4th chapter in all those books. I'm kind of reading them all at the same time, which is kind of weird because I was watching the episodes, the different parts. Now, obviously, the parts don't coincide with the chapters. There's more chapters and parts, but you get the idea. Let's see what else we got here. Now, this is funny. There's a record, and I was talking about this. This was supposed to come yesterday. And I get an email yesterday saying, your record is lost. And we'll refund you your money. Okay. So they did this to me on Moving Pictures. I tried to get a new copy reissue of Moving Pictures, and it just never came. And they said they lost it. I'm like, okay, well, if you admit to the failure of losing it, I'm assuming what happened was somebody broke it. And I'm hoping this is not broken. I'm assuming somebody broke it, like a delivery driver or somebody. And so they like, oh, we have to cancel it, and they refund. Why wouldn't they just send out another one? I mean, they have like lots of them. They're not like, it didn't say like the last one. Now this one in particular said the last one because this, I believe, was still a third-party seller, although it was fulfilled through Amazon. And it's obviously it's not in an Amazon backed box. It came United States Postal Service, so I'm assuming that came from a third-party vendor. Now they sent me one yesterday saying your record's lost. We'll refund your money. I'm like, did they do it again? Like they did with Moving Pictures. But then I hear the door knock today, and I go to answer it, and I'm assuming I knew this would be in the mailbox. I'm like, what? And this came, which that was quick. We'll get to that next. I've only got the 3 things to open here real quick, then we'll get back on with the video, but I figured you might want to see all this stuff. So, yeah. So let's hope that Relayer is the record that's in here. Let's hope it's, not broken, and hopefully it's in pretty decent shape. It said it was in very good shape. It actually said near mint and very good, meaning usually that means the disc itself is graded separate from the jacket. The record sleeve. It's usually the case, but not always. Sorry, this is not the best. Scissors, usually the knife is a lot better. You get into this, but I don't feel like going to get the knife at the moment. So I see so a little bit of ringwood. I do have it in plastic, which is good because I'm out of plastics. They did put the record on the outside of the sleeve. Very nice. This is what I just want to look at first real quick here. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I don't think... No, yeah, I did have this on record. I would say. I don't remember that, though. I love that little Roger Dean art right on there. Oh, yeah. I'm going to say... It's not broken. I'm going to say... Got a little dust on it already. I have to clean it. Yeah, that's near mint. That looks like it says it looks like it's never been played. It looks like it's never. That's exactly how long that on side A on Gates of Delirium. Look how long Gates of Delirium the track is. It's just one solid track. The whole first side is Gates of Delirium, which is a 21 minute and 55 second song. It's the entire first part of the album, and it's got a little like an engraving in there. I wonder if that was original or somebody marked it. And then, of course, Sound Chaser and To Be Over are the other two songs. There's only two songs as well on the other side. So there's only 3 songs on this album, and it's a full-length album. Well, that's the beauty of Relayer. So that isn't terrible. I can live with that. The sleeve looks fine, though, and it has the sleeve. It looks like somebody tried to repair the bottom of it with some clear tape. So far so good. Again, you can't get this on reissue right now, so please visit the store. Okay, blah blah blah. This is very good on the top. I paid that's all I paid for it, $20, which I thought was a pretty decent deal since it's not. You can't get it on reissue, and it's very hard to find online, even on Discogs. So there's the gatefold. It's not much of a gatefold. It just kind of has a picture of the band in it, and all this blue, and then this little thing here, which is kind of weird. I feel like, you know, it's got that little ship that's on, what do you call it? I mean, I love the cover. I mean, you know, I guess this isn't the best video to get into this. Well, I guess this is because we're going to hit some fantasy stuff. But like I said, Relayer, of all the Yes covers, Relayer is the one that really does it for me as far as the fantasy-ness of it, to make you really feel like you're in that fantasy world. Relayer's the album cover. I mean, Fragile's cool, you know, and the other albums are cool, but Relayer is like, and it's also one of my favorite albums. It's also the one without Rick Wakeman on it too. It's got Patrick Moraz, which I find kind of odd. But I'll put that all back together a little bit. I'll probably want to listen to it too, so it will be listened to at least once. Yeah, I'll probably listen to it a bunch of times. But anyways, so I have Relayer. That's cool. All right, last but not least, I think I might have talked about what I got here. I found this. Found it online. These are hard to find, and they're Doctor Who stuff, more Doctor Who stuff. I wanted the Doctor, but he's really hard to find. I really wanted the TARDIS playset, but that's really, it's stupid money people want for it. However, I did find, you know who I found, and this particular figure wasn't that much money at all. And I was like, okay, that's kind of odd. These came out in 2012, I believe, or whenever it was. What was on the price on it? I forgot what I paid for it. I paid like, I think, just less than $20 for it. Oh, it's actually pretty cool looking. There's Leela. She's kind of out of her, one leg kind of popped out of the thing there. I don't think I'm going to open these. You know, I mean, she's not the best. It's, you know, with those Mego dolls, this is not Mego, by the way, but those Mego dolls, they had an issue with, you know, the girls always looked very weird with their hips and everything, but the face looks really good, and the hair is not, it's molded hair. This is put out by a company called Biff Bang Boom. Yeah. So here are all the figures. There was K9. There was the Doctor, Fourth Doctor, but he's really hard to find. You can get the Cyberman. You can get the Skyroth, Sutek. He's kind of hard to find. This guy's relative. They're all relatively easy to find. The Master's relatively easy to find, but the Doctor and K9 are the two ones. Obviously, you know, probably the most popular. They're really hard to find. Really heavy card in this thing. Jeez. Yeah, Biff Bang Pow is the company, and Acme Toys. I think these came out, I think they said they came out in 2012, I believe. But it's, it's essentially like the old Mego dolls, like the Star Trek. But this one was a Leela. I just wish her leg wasn't. I wish her leg would pop back over into that spot. Like I said, I kind of want to leave these in the package just to kind of display them on the wall, because it's probably the easiest way, unless, her getting all dusty and falling over every 5 minutes. And I don't have, she's the only one I have, and I don't really, I'm thinking about putting Ace back in the box temporarily for now, but this one I would have to, you got to peel it off the card, so I'm probably going to leave it how it is. There's also the hook on it, I could hang it with a pin for now, but I'm probably going to leave her in the card for now. And I'd like to get the rest of them. Like I said, I watched my video on the stuff in the 70s, the Mego dolls and all those dolls. I really like this format. I think for a figure, it's a little bit bigger than a 7-inch. I mean, it's an inch bigger than a 7-inch. I mean, sure, these look great and they're articulated, but and these look like dolls. Yes, they're dolls, even though they're action figures. It reminds me of that time in the 70s when they had a lot of this type of stuff, and and this is the shows from the 70s, up to 81, so kind of is of that time. So I'm going to put her somewhere at the moment, and I've also got the book. Where did I put the book? Let's see all my receipts here. Throw away. I don't need that stupid wine voucher. I got to get back to the video here. I'm going to try to make this video not super long and convoluted, but like I said, there's some stuff I wanted to point out here. So let's get into it. Let me flip over to... I have a... Well, first let me do this. Sorry, I know I'm always scatterbrained in my videos and I don't edit them, so I'm always kind of all over the place. Forgive me for that. But, so I was looking up, I can't remember what I was looking up, but I came across this Wikipedia entry, and I think I was looking up video games or arcade games of a certain year, and I got like the whole 80s. Oh no, it's Gauntlet. I watched a video on Gauntlet, and I'll get to Gauntlet. This is not going to be... I'm going to do a separate video on the arcades. I know I did an arcade video before, but this one's a little bit more concise and in-depth, and it goes by year. And it's fun, I find it fun, to watch the progression over the years of the technology, and as everything gets more, betterer, and it's interesting. So, but I'm gonna do the... Let's get the computer games out of the way first, because I don't have any pictures of the all the arcade games. But as you can see here, it goes into consoles, consoles 83, 93, it kind of goes into the different generation ones, and then, golden age of arcades, blah, 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 blah. I did notice that Galaga, Asteroids, and Space Invaders weren't on the other list, so I'm assuming they came out in 79 or before 80, because these are specifically from 80. The video game crash of 83, and this is all kind of history about that. It's interesting reading if you go through and read it. The Rejuvenation, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, I mean, to some degree, sure, the Sega Master System, but specifically when the NES came out in the States, it added whole new life to video games, just in general, I think. Because it seems like the 84, 85, like after the video game crash, it seems like video games were a little touchy, and it's like when Gauntlet came out. There wasn't a lot coming out, and like I said, here's the list. Now, here's the thing also, but we're going to skip to this list. We'll get back to this list in another video, maybe the next video, but we'll get that. See, there's Gauntlet 85. The problem I have with this list, though, is, and they're hyperlinked, to their pages, is that the year, they've got the alphabetical order, which is fine. It's probably the easiest way to do it. But then the years are all after it. And the thing is, I want the list by year, so I did make just a simple note sheet list, which I'm going to go off of. And this is also what I use to order the my images of the boxes. So here's the list, but let's not look at this part of the list because, like I said, it's not really in an order. Oh wait, what do we have here? I see Pac-Man. Oh, this has just got more information about it, but it says Pac-Man 80. Is Pac-Man on the? I'm just curious. Bear with me. If Pac-Man 80, okay, but a Missile Commands 80. Did I put Pac-Man on my list? No, I don't think I think I forgot to add Pac-Man to my actual list. That's weird. Probably the most popular game, and I forgot to add it on there. But like I said, some of the other games I think came out prior to the 80s, like Asteroids, Space Invaders, and Galaga, or Galaxian, or whatever the first one was. I thought Galaga came out in 83, but it's not on here, and it should be. I'm going to do some more research about Galaga, and even if Galaxian's the first one, Galaga is the second one, technically, then it would definitely be in the 80s, and I don't see it on this list. Well, let's go again. Sorry of all the ado, waiting so long to get to this. Let's get to the list, but I'm going to go over to my file with all of the covers, because it's, like I said, it's interesting to look at the covers. Now, these are all in order by year, / then alphabetical order. So, the first game being King's Quest. It doesn't ring a bell. There may have been another cover to it, but this looks like this was the original our IBM game cover. And I'm assuming it's either a cassette tape in there, or it's a literal floppy disk, not the little 3-inch hard. Even though they call them floppy disks, they're hard plastic. But the floppy that actually would flop, those are the 6 or 7 inch or whatever they are. But I'm thinking it's that in there. I know that when we get to Wizardry is definitely that. It had 2 discs because I had Wizardry. So King's Quest, obviously for the IBM. Now, Star Raiders was an Atari game, but it was also, I guess, for the different systems. Excuse me. So it might. This looks like the cover. I mean, even though the painting itself, this looks like Star Raiders. But like I said, these are not just computer games. They're computer games and console games. So just home games in general, non-arcade cabinet games, pretty much. And it's weird too. You'll see certain things drop off. But another game was The Prisoner, and I can't find a good picture of it. I don't think they had a good picture of it. I'm assuming this is based on the TV show The Prisoner, and this, I believe, is I can't remember what system it's for. I don't know much. I mean, I know what the show was, but I don't know much about the game at all. Now, here's Wizardry. I had Wizardry. I didn't have it when it came out. This is how I got it. I was living in the trailer park, and I was in high school at the time. I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a Commodore, didn't have a Apple or anything. I didn't even have the Texas Instruments anymore. I had the NES and the Master System prior to that. Remember, watch my videos on that. You'll see. Sorry, yes. Work all morning, and now I'm just dead tired. So there was a guy down the street. Actually, there was a girl down the street that I went to high school with. I won't name any names, but she lived at the very end next to the park, and she lived there with her brother and her dad, and I'm assuming divorced family. Maybe he's a widower. I don't know, but it is kind of weird when you see like 2 kids living with their dad, because it's kind of rare. But they lived down there with their dad, and their dad had long hair, and he was a tall guy, and he was really cool, like really cool, and he was totally into all this stuff. He had he had a computer in his trailer, which, I don't know what he did for a living. I think he told me at one time, I can't remember, but I was friends with the daughter, and the daughter's really pretty back then. I mean, I'm sure she is now, but I mean, she was really pretty. A lot of there, she was she was something else. And the brother, I vaguely remember the brother. I can't remember him exactly, but I've befriended them with all the kids in the area when I first moved to the trailer park. But I got to be really good friends with the dad. He was cool. I just like to go down there and hang out with him, because he had all the games and stuff, and he knew about D&D, and he was talking about fantasy and all this stuff. And he was a cool guy. I don't think he was a weirdo, I mean, because what you're probably thinking is, I bet she's a weirdo. I don't think he was. I think he was a pretty straight guy. I never heard anything bad about him ever, and so I think he was a pretty straight guy. He's kind of like me now. I mean, this is kind of how I live, although I don't live in a trailer, I live in an apartment, but same thing, kind of into all of this stuff. I mean, a lot of people my age are, but back then that was kind of rare to find that. But he was like, "Oh, do you like fantasy and stuff?" He goes, "Hey, I'm going to give you a game." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's a computer game." He says, "It's for the Apple II, or the Apple IIe, I think it's the Apple II in there." And he said, so you're going to have to run it on an Apple, probably at school, unless, I don't think you have Apple. I told him I didn't have any computers, but, so he said you can run it at school. It also ran on DOS, too. I think that's how he was doing it, because he was showing me how the internet worked. It was called a bulletin board back then. And, anyways, this is 87, so I was kind of marveled at this, at the time, because remember the whole thing I went through with the computers and all that stuff. So, I mean, I was just like, I was an open book at that point. I was just, tell me more. But he gave me this game, gave me that specific box. It was cool, like fake leather box like that with the embossed dragon wizardry. And it was it says 1 disc drive, but it had, I remember, no, maybe it only had 1 disc. Fantasy role-playing simulation from 1981. So I took it to school, and I went to the resource center, the learning center, which was, remember I was in special ed at the time, and there was like this room where they had paraprofessionals that would help the kids take tests, and you could come down there, like if you were in like a normal classroom, it wasn't special ed, and you had needed trouble with homework or a test, you could go down, you could request to go down there. I would go down. I'd get. There's too many kids in a class, in like my normal classes, and I felt overwhelmed, and I didn't get along with people, and I felt, I was just on edge. So just to calm my nerves, I would ask to go down to the learning center to do whatever the assignment was or test. So I'd go down there, and there's usually only like maybe 5 people in there at a time, and everybody was kind of busy doing stuff, and they had a paraprofessional who could sit down with you for each person. Not, if they were busy, maybe not, but I think it's like 4 of them in there. And I can't remember the ladies. I know some of them were just the regular special ed teachers, and they do an hour in there at certain times. Like Mrs. I cannot remember her name. Can't remember the one lady's name I had. I had her at Ruther, too, because she bumped up when everybody bumped up. She went from Ruther over to Rochester High. But anyways, they had an Apple IIe in there. They also had one in the library, but I wanted to use one there. And I said, hey, I had a neighbor give me a game to use on the computer. I don't have an Apple IIe. Can I try to run it on this game on this computer, see if it works? And they said, okay, go ahead. So I put it in there. I said, how do you get these? I don't know how to get these to work. And they said, well, you got to run it. I don't know if you ever used a game like this, but you have to literally run the game. And, I mean, it's no different than having to install it on Windows and open it up and stuff, but you literally had to go into the DOS prompt, even in Apple, you had to go to the Apple prompt or whatever it was, and type in, you had to write whatever the execute was, and it didn't, you could save the information on that computer, but I don't remember, I never could. I didn't play that much of it because it was very involved, and I didn't have a lot of time down there, and, they weren't going to let me just sit down there and play video games all the time. I had to come back, like, during my lunch hour and play it for, like, half an hour, and then I had to, take it out and take it with me, and I think I left it there for a while, so I didn't have to keep bringing it back and forth, and they looked after it, but, and I think I wanted to learn how to play it, and the thing was, the ladies there were nice in the research room, and they're very helpful, but they really weren't really into this stuff. So they're like, okay, well, just got to read the directions. There's no way to Google it. There's no way to do a YouTube tutorial on it. You just had to figure it out. And I did figure it out, and I started playing it, and I realized this game is really boring. It's really boring. Like it's not like Zork. I'm surprised Zork's not on here. Unless Zork came out before 80. It's literally type based. You got to tell. It'll ask you. It'll give you like It'll ask you what do you want to do, and they'll give you choices. And I think you just hit like 1, 2, or 3, and it would do that one. And then if you wanted to do something specific, you could type into it. It was just like basically a multiple choice game type of thing, and then it would, it's like a choose your own adventure. It would just play itself out. But it had like a map that came in the box. It was so cool. I loved the presentation of computer games back then. They were so, like when I saw games with, there's another game on here that had a map, and like, it had like a fabric map, like all that, and some people would put it up on their walls, and that just blew me away as a kid. I was like, that is so cool. I don't know what that's all about, but I want to be involved in that. So there's my, like I said, there's my story in wizardry. Ultima, I don't have a good picture of the first Ultima. Let's see if I can pull it up, just blow it up a bit. Basically, it's a castle on a hill. The original Ultima 1. I know people talked about this game. I never played it. Again, it was like wizardry. It was one of those very early on games. Now, of course, Wolfenstein, Castle Wolfenstein ended up becoming later, and they have a lot more iterations of Castle Wolfenstein, but I didn't have a Commodore 64, so it was one of those games that I saw the box. Well, I want to play that, but I don't know what it is. Oddly enough, the Alien game, I remember the Alien game as far as the box. I didn't play it. But the thing about the Alien game is, this is actually before I saw Alien, because it came out in, 81 or 79, whatever, I can't remember which year it came out. And it came out in 82. I remember seeing it in, 85, and I still hadn't seen Alien. I still hadn't seen the movie. It was one of those movies I wanted to see, but I was scared to see. Like I said, and then when I wanted to see Aliens, the second one, in the theater, and my friend wanted to go, and I kind of chickened out. I got scared. I didn't want to go. So I ended up watching it on cable, and then I had to go back and watch Alien on cable, or I think I rented it on video, in 86. The year of Aliens came out, and I finally saw it. Now, I'd seen enough. Like I said, there was that book that was at the bookstore that had there was the Viewmaster. I saw a lot of stuff from it, scenes, but I never watched the movie from start to finish. So when this was out, I was just like, oh, that's cool, that's Alien. Oh, that's the movie. There's a game based on the movie. Again, that type of stuff blew my mind back in 85, 86-ish, that area. Choplifter. Now this is what I was saying about what I find interesting is, it's crazy how many games. Now, obviously, they needed content, and they needed to buy up as much stuff as they could. But when they started doing console games, Atari, sure, and Atari did have a lot of games that were crossover from a lot of these early IBM computers. But when they did ColecoVision, remember, ColecoVision were supposed to be arcade games. But when they came out with the Master System, they were Sega games, but if you remember, they were kind of made for that system, those cartridges. But when they came out with NES, they had that first wave of NES games, and there's a few of them on here, like Excite Bike and Super Mario Brothers. But after that first few waves, you started seeing more covers that looked more like the computer games, because that's what they were. They were porting over all these computer games. So it's funny, because I didn't even think about it at the time, but it's like all these games that I'd seen the boxes for in that computer store that I didn't have a computer to play, I now was able to, I couldn't get them all, but but I had the means now with the Nintendo NES. I could play these games. These games that I wanted to play, I could play them now. I didn't really even think about it. I kind of thought about it before, but But seeing this list was like one. This is when I saw like Choplifter. I'm like, okay, that went to the Sega Master System. So some of them went to the Master System, but how many games were ported over? Microsoft Flight Simulator, it was a classic game. You know, Pitfall, obviously, it was an Activision game, but it was on, you know, the Atari. I think the 2600 and the newer one. There's, right there, 2600. There's an Atari game when they had Real Sports. They had Real Sports, soccer, football, all of them. I never played them, really. I never had an Atari, so I guess there's that. Rocky's Boots. I'm assuming it's like Rocky the Squirrel. When I first read that and I was looking that up, I was thinking like, there's a game about Rocky Balboa's boots? Uh-huh. And then I remember had seen a game with had like a bunch of sports equipment on the cover, and I can't remember what that game was. And I thought, maybe they're talking about that game? But then I saw this and I'm like, oh, Educational Family. No. This is interesting. It came out for the Atari. Sears Video Game Systems too. Was they did have this Spider-Man game. Now I don't remember ever playing it. I've seen screenshots from it. I'm like, okay, it looks vaguely familiar, but I don't remember it ever playing it. And it's just interesting that that came out back in '82. I mean, it probably coincided with. You know, they had the Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends, I think it was '81, so, and of course the comic book was super popular. And Spider-Man's Spider-Man, so it's going to be popular. But that was just weird that they started putting this stuff, you know, they got started to put superheroes and comic book characters in it. As you can see, it kind of keeps going from that. Now, Bomberman, I always thought Bomberman was Metroid, and I don't think it is. Bomberman, I remember seeing this box, and I remember seeing the Nintendo box. I had to grab the Nintendo box. I'm assuming it's the same artwork was on the original one. But when I saw the box, I was like, isn't that Metroid? But no, it was a different game. And I went, oh wait, I remembered Bomberman now. And I remember the artwork. And I was like, yeah, I remember seeing that. Never played it. The G.I. Joe game. Ads for this all over the comic books. Had it for the Atari 2600. Had it for the Sears Video Game System. Just like, you know, the Spider-Man. Now, I don't even remember what the Sears Video Game System looked like. I'd have to look that up. I never had it. I don't know anybody who did, so I'm just interested to see about that. But I remember seeing all the ads about it in the what do you call it? And that was '83. That was the year that the very first miniseries, the Mass Device, came out too. So all that stuff started to coincide with each other. This Godzilla Commodore game, that was the original cover of it, and it's just like, ooh, is that, huh? Horus, this character Horus, I vaguely remember this. It's not my cup of tea. I've noticed that, especially in, was it in the 82 games here? In the arcade games, it seemed like 82, there was a lot of, like, cutesy characters. I remember, I didn't like cutesy. And as you see, there's a lot of things that become cutesy after a while, and I just didn't like cutesy. I know it's not, you know, it's pretty primitive, but I mean, I don't remember, I never played it, but I vaguely remember you seeing it. The James Bond game, I remember seeing the cover, but never played it. Again, none of these Sinclair games. Jetpack doesn't ring a bell. Lode Runner, I remember. I remember the box, and I always thought it was funny when I saw Lode Runner, and I saw like those little those robot guys. I thought they were the guys from the Black Hole. They are cool looking, by the way. And then I was like, does this have to do with the Black Hole? And then I remember seeing an advertisement for the movie. Remember, this is back in '83. I'm 10. I remember seeing an advertisement for, what do you call it, Logan's Run. And then I remember seeing, I think a role-playing game or something. I can't remember. And I thought, Lode Runner, or maybe it was a book, science fiction book. And I was like, Lode Runner? What is that? I was just, I always thought it was cool, but I never played it. And I don't think it ever made it to any of the consoles. Maniac Miner, I remember Miner 49er, but Maniac Miner I sort of remember. This is an interesting game. So this game here, which is Thunder Force. Thunder Force actually made it to, I think, Sega Genesis. And I remember my friend was playing this a lot, like in the 90s. And it's just funny how it's like, it was another game that they ported it over from a PC game. And it's old. I mean, it's 83, and we're talking, I thought it came out in like 90 or 91. And it's just like, okay, well, it's been out for a few years. They just ported it over. Like I said, that's what they did with a lot of these games. They just ported them over from the PC games. So, like I said, if I would have known that, I would have probably rested a little more easy as a kid, and I could just say, well, seeing that somebody told me what the future is, I'm just going to wait, from 85. I'm just going to wait like a year and a half and get a Sega Master System or an NES, and what do you call it? And I can play all these games once they bring them all over. And you know what? I vaguely, this is either me just imagining this, or it could be true. I think it's true, though. I remember somebody, like an adult, at like a store or something, saying, hey, a lot of these games are going to be a bit more available. They're going to come out with new consoles like the Atari and ColecoVision. I remember somebody saying that. And so I don't think I just imagined that. But it didn't really... I mean, I heard it, and I probably got excited, and thought about it all afternoon, and then, forgot about it once my mind went to something else. Is this the dungeon, whatever you call it? I can't remember. Alternate Reality, the dungeon. I remember the covers. You said now we're getting into, of course, some of the games that I remember the covers, but I never got to play the game. Boulder Dash... I remember the cover. I think I made it to Nintendo, too, I'm pretty sure. This was the game I wanted to play a lot. I don't have a great picture of it, sorry. Because the cover just sold me on it. Dragon Slayer with this, it's epic fantasy, very, Frank Frazetta cover. It's just a total rip-off of Frank Frazetta, but, it was a very Frank Frazetta-esque cover. Saw that at that computer store, really wanted to play that. And I think that did end up coming to Nintendo. This game I don't remember. Excitebike. So now we're getting into some of the first-gen Nintendo games. So there's Excitebike, which I played then. I never had it, but my friend had it. The guy in the trailer park had it. Nice to play his. It's on the... I got that emulator, that little Nintendo emulator. It's got to... Actually, let me go grab that. Just in case you don't know about that. Let me hit pause for a second. Alright, we're recording. Okay, let me put you on full screen too here. So, these came out, if you know what these are, these came out a few years ago. I really wanted the... I really wanted the Super Nintendo one, but they sold out quick. And they went for crazy... They still go for... They're out of print. They go for crazy prices. I was going to get the Commodore 64 because a lot of these games from the 64 that I wanted to play are on it. Then I thought, am I really going to play them? Because they look really boring now by today's standards. But, I still might pick one up if I can find one. But so what it is it's a little mini Nintendo. And it's got an HDMI cable, so it'll go to any smart TV. And they've got it all formatted, and they've got it off the 4:6, and now they've got it to the 16:9 ratio. But it comes with, your power plug. It comes with one controller. And the only thing is the cord's really short on it. One of the original controllers. So I bought these adapters that just make them longer. And I bought a second controller, but it was... To buy one of those controllers, this was like $75, the whole thing. But one of these controllers was like $60. I'm like, really? It's almost the price of it's like... I didn't know if you could use the old controllers, find an old one. So I just went on, Amazon or whatever, and I found these Insignia. It's a knockoff, but it already had a long cord on it. And it had this... And it works fine. It doesn't miss a beat, really. It doesn't have... It's not as cool looking as the original, but it's still the same thing. And these are supposed to be full size to the original. It's funny, when I started playing, I was like, oh my god, I totally forgot. You know, I just forgot. I'll have to package this up later, but I forgot. I'm like, these are so small. It's like, my hands were a little smaller then, but I'm just like, I remember how much it would burn my thumb and just hurt my thumb after a while playing with this and doing, you know, the up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, start to get the extra guys on Contra. So this has, I think there's 80 games programmed into this already. It's pretty much got most of the heavy hitters from Nintendo. It's got Super Mario Brothers. It's got Excite Bike. It's got Castlevania. We'll get to that one. It's got Double Dragon, Contra. I think it's Super Contra. I don't think it's the original Contra. I think Metal Gear's on it. I don't know if Metal Gear was on it or not. We got all the Mario. It's very, you know, very pushing the Mario Brother thing, but very Mario Brother. But I don't. I can't remember all the games. I know Double Dragon's on it, and that's not on here. I really like Double Dragon. It's one of my favorite games on the NES. Tetris is on it, yeah. Where were we at here? Excite Bike. So, I remember this game, Fantasy! That was a cool game. This is also the same people, and you'll see it, put out the Dungeons & Dragons game. I liked this cover. I never played the game. And then Romance of the Three Kingdoms, I vaguely remember this for the Nintendo. I think somebody had it, and I borrowed it, and it's just like, it looks involved, and they gave it back. Now, I had Tetris. A lot of people did. It was a great game. I had it for the Nintendo. There's a game, The Bard's Tale. There's a whole series of these. There's Bard's Tale 1 and 2, and so I wanted these a lot when I was a kid, because they were very Dungeons & Dragons, and they just seemed like, it was just, I mean, look at, they got like the 20-sided die here, you got a maze. It was just so pushed all my buttons. Never got around to playing it. It's funny, when I saw Baldur's Gate come out, I'm like going, oh, Baldur's Gate, that's that game back in the... That's not called Baldur's Gate. What was it called? Oh, Bard's Tale. Like, oh, okay. It's not the same game, but I thought when Baldur's Gate came out that was the game, just like for the new PC, for, you know, updated. Well, not what it was. Here's an interesting game. Where in the hell is Arnett? It wasn't even Where in the hell is Carmen Sandiego. It was just, oh no, Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I thought that was later. So that started out as a PC game, I believe. I think it was based on a book series or something. I don't know a lot about it, but you know, obviously I remember this game, and then I remember seeing like cartoons on like in the 90s. I'm like, is that game from like the 90s? Or from the 80s? Obviously Super Mario Bros. That's on that little system. Kid Icarus and Metroid are on there too. Zelda's on there. But again, remember, now we're getting into the cutesy game, and I'm just not a big fan of the cutesy game. Adventure Island, cutesy game. Hudson Soft. And then there was, what do you call it? Is it Kid Icarus, or whatever his name is? It was all vague. It was all, you know, like very anime-esque. And remember, I wasn't a big fan of that back in the day. I liked some anime. As we go in my anime video, I'll tell you all about my anime experience. But a lot of this, I didn't like this cute stuff. And I know there's a Dragon Ball Z game. Yeah, Castlevania is definitely on that, and that's still a pretty cool game. The Tandy, it's not for the Tandy. This is the PC version of it. I remember this Batman game, and this came out in '86. This is right about the same time as the Dark Knight Returns. I remember this Batman game coming out, and I was like, oh, I want to play that. Is it going to come to... or, you know, I didn't know at the time, but I was just like, oh, I want to play that game. And then when I remember seeing it later, and I think, I'm not 100% certain, I think, didn't it come to the Nintendo system? I didn't see a listing for it. Maybe it didn't. But, you know, by the time, I mean... Remember, Keaton Batman was only like 2 years away, and I know they had a Keaton Batman, 89 Keaton Batman game for the Nintendo system. But like I said, all this stuff is in very short... I mean, you're talking the Dark Knight coming out to the Keaton Batman. It's 86, 87, 89. It's only 4 years. And then you got the Nintendo coming out in that time period. So, you know, and then they started having like Uncle from the Addams Family movie out. They had a Fester game. I mean, the Ninja Turtles game, which is on here. All that stuff is like a very short period of time. Because you gotta realize, a decade really isn't that long. It's 10 years. Like I said, this is 2024. I moved into this apartment in the fall of, or sorry, like March this month-ish of 2013. So I'm going on my 11th year here. That's like that's an entire decade. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's just like a few years. But the older you get, time seems to fly by. But I mean, you gotta think I could have just went through 1979 and now it's 89 or 1990. I could have, this last 10 years, it's a whole decade. I mean, the 80s just went by in 10 years, obviously. It's mind-boggling to think about it. I know some people are like, no, it's not mind-boggling. Yes, it is. It's very mind-boggling to think how fast and how much stuff came out in this specific time. And all this technology was just, like, this is when it all just dumped. And then it just got refined and refined, you know, up until, I mean, outside of the internet, which technically existed then, it wasn't until, I think, the smartphone is like, which is a kind of a long time. DVDs, I mean, I guess they had VCDs in Japan. I mean, that was, and it's compact discs in the 80s. I mean, putting digital technology on a disc like that, laser discs, that wasn't that crazy. I don't think it was until literally, it's like all of this explosion, it just built on each other and got better and better. I don't think it was until the smartphone, like in the late 2000s, where literally that was like the next real jump. You know, putting the internet, putting all that stuff on a phone, and that was a pretty big jump in technology jump. And of course, you know, I'm not going to get into the controversies of the cell phone, but obviously some people think it's the devil, just like they thought the TV was the devil, just like they thought rock and roll music's the devil. You know, I don't know. It seems like it's the devil. Seems like there's something, they might be right on that one. That one might be satanic. But because it seems like it's opened a whole can of worms, and it's literally changed the world. The world's not the same as it was, even in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, until this thing came out, which obviously is not the iPhone. When the iPhone came out, I think just cell phones themselves wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. And like I said, the internet was, but it wasn't. But when that came out, boom. Yeah, I think must be hearing me talk about it. I don't know, I just got a bunch of emails I got to email or read now. Where are we at? Dragon Warrior. I wanted Dragon Warrior was on Nintendo, and I was contemplating which one I wanted to get. I remember seeing Dragon Warrior. I remember also seeing was it Phantasy Star? I know it was a Phantasy Star. That was for Sega. Oh, that's on this. Yeah, on this list. There's another one. Dragon something? Dragon Quest? Or shit, not Ultima. There's another medieval, you know, fantasy game that I wanted at the time. I can't remember what it was. It was a baseball game from Japan. I think it came over here. Yeah, Kid Icarus, or Kid Icarus, whatever you want to call it. That's on that system. Metroid's on there. Metroid is such an unforgiving game. I always thought, I didn't even know it was a girl back then in the Powered Armor. Samus, I didn't know it was a girl back then. I don't think anybody did. I think that came later. Such an unforgiving game on that thing. Might and Magic, that was the game. Okay, so Might and Magic was the game it had. I don't know if you remember this. It had that big fabric map, and this was 86. It might have been 86. I was definitely high school. I went to somebody's house, and I remember them folding it out and going, I'm gonna hang this up on my corkboard by my computer so I can see the map. What is that? And they go, it's a map. I go, oh, like in Wizardry, but it's fabric. Ooh, that's so cool. And I was like, oh, I want to play that game. I never played Might and Magic. Space Quest, Cool cover. Never played it. That's Space Quest 3, so I might have even... Oh, that's for the Amiga. Huh. Star Soldier. I remember this box. I don't think I ever played it. Like I said, as you can see... Sorry, that's the warp file. A lot of these games ended up getting ported over... Sorry, we're coming up on an hour here. Getting ported over to Nintendo. So I would say by 1987, pretty much there was no need to have a computer, really. And that's why a lot of people... I mean, we couldn't afford one. But a lot of people didn't really need computers at that time because all of this stuff was available on the Nintendo, you know. Legend of Zelda, Nintendo. Dungeon Master, I think Dungeon Master came out on there. Oh, Final Fantasy, that's what it was. This is the first Final Fantasy. I don't remember the I don't think that all the mythos and all the characters that they had on all the other Final Fantasies. I think Final Fantasy didn't have any of those characters. It was more like a straightforward medieval fantasy game, I think. But this is the one. I saw this one. I was like, oh, I want that. This would have been in 1987, too. I remember Toys R Us used to have a big wall. Remember the little plastic... They had the cover and then the back of it. Basically, they took out the cover of the box, and then they took the back cover and they put it in like a sleeve, and they could flip up. And you could flip it up and look at the... they had it upside down, so you could flip it up and look at the back cover and read and see the screenshots, and then drop it down, and they had a little sheet you pull out. You'd have to go to the locked area to get the game itself. I mean, that was that way for the longest time at Toys R Us, but I used to sit there and spend so much time at that because there were so many games, and that's why I was kind of glad that... Not glad that I broke my Sega, but I mean... It's like, oh, I'm glad I got a Nintendo because there's just so many of these computer games that got ported over, just tons of them, whole wall of them, and it's just like being at that computer store. I could just sit there and look through and wanted to play them all, obviously, but they're expensive. The Last Ninja, another great game. Leisure Suit Larry. I had this game on, I think on the Apple, like on a computer, Apple IIe game or whatever, and I didn't want to bring it to school. But a kid at the trailer park, his mom ended up just getting an Apple IIe just out of the blue when I was in high school. And I was like, what? Like, oh yeah, my mom got it. I think her work gave it to her or something. I was like, huh, wow. God damn it, why does everybody get stuff before me? I never had an Apple IIe. But anyways, I wanted it, and I was like, huh. And then it eventually came out. You know what's funny is, I guess this is... I shouldn't... I was going to make one, but this video, even though it's almost to the end here, it's kind of become my proxy NES video, really, because now we're, like I said, we're almost exclusively talking about NES games. Maniac Mansion, I never got to play it, but I always wanted to. I used to get the Nintendo magazine in that time. I remember I picked up an issue of the Nintendo magazine. I said, you know what, and it shows like all the new games coming out, and I said, you know what, I'm going to look through this and read up which game I want to play next. I remember sitting in the trailer, sitting in my bedroom at my drawing table, kind of like this, just sitting there, the lamp on, and I was just looking through the magazine. It was raining out, or storming out. I remember I was just sitting there looking through the magazine in my little stool I had. I didn't have a fancy chair. I literally had like a wooden stool. And I was sitting there. Oh, actually, no, I took crates. I had crates built up, and I sat on crates, like milk crates. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, huh. And all of a sudden, I came across this. I'm like, I love the cover. I liked her for some reason. My little punk rock girl. Even though they're kind of cartoony, but they're not like super kiddie cartoony. They're more like, like Mad Magazine, kind of funny. And I was just like, oh, I want this game. I don't know. Hopefully this girl shows up. And I like this girl character a lot. But yeah, I never got to play. I never played it. I never got it. I just never saw it, and I just forgot about it, I think. Mega Man, also, I think that's on there as well. Mega Man's on there. This game, Megami Tensei, I remember people talking about this. I think they were talking about it at Tora Tuesday, going, oh yeah, I was playing Megami Tensei, and I'm like, what do you mean playing it? And I remember seeing the cover, I was like, oh, it's an anime. And they're like, no, it's a game. Yeah, it was just kind of weird. I never played it. I did. Like I said, I guess I didn't do my. I'm not going to really do a video on Nintendo, but there's Michael Bean. This was the very first game I got because I got my Nintendo in 87. Right, didn't get it in 86 because I got the Sega Master System first. I had to get the next year, and I got this game. It's my first game, and I thought the game was broken. I didn't know how to get past the first board, and it just looked like, oh, this game looks either really hard or I don't think it's working right. And I told my dad, we had to drive from the trailer park way out in Hidden Lake Estates all the way back to Toys R Us. And I told him I had to return the game. And the thing is, I told the lady at the counter, I said, hey, this game's not working. And she says, oh, well, you opened it, so you can't exchange it, or you can't get your money back, or you can't exchange it for another game, but you can go get another version of that game. I'm like, maybe the game isn't broken, but I don't want it. So my dad just shook his head. And I was like, but Dad, I don't like this game. I wanted to get another game. And the games were not cheap. And he goes, well, what game do you want? And that's when I went over and I was looking at it and I saw Contra. I said, oh, I really want Contra. And he's like, fine, we'll get that game too. So I got another game. And then I kept Metal Gear because obviously I wasn't going to just throw it away or anything. And then a buddy came out over, the guy that introduced me to Metallica, the same year too. He came over and he said, oh, you got Metal Gear, let's play it. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a great game. And he could figure it out because he was smarter than I was. And he stayed over the night. We never went to sleep. My mom never came home either, which is kind of weird. I think this is like, I can't remember. It was a Saturday, I think. It was a weekend, but like Friday night. No, it was a Friday night. He stayed over Friday night. He just never went home. We literally went through an entire can of Christmas corn, like, you know, the cheese, the caramel regular popcorn. We went through an entire can of that, and he stayed over. We never went to sleep, and we ended up beating the entire game. We just kept pausing it all the time. And I just remember that last level, we're like, oh my god, we made it to the last level. And I'd never got to the end of a game before. I was just totally mind blown that we got that far. And yeah, I thought, oh, this game's great. I had to have help, but I mean, I thought the game was great. So I have a lot of fond memories of that and that night doing that. And of course, you know, led a lot up to that because I didn't like it at first. Phantasy Star, that was another game I wanted, but I think that was for Sega Genesis, or Sega, I think it came out in the Sega Genesis, but I think it, did it come out in the Master System? Maybe it was, maybe it's just Genesis. So now we're also, of course, as we get going here, we're going to start getting closer to the Genesis games too. Police Quest, remember the cover, never played it. Test Drive Arcade, I don't think I played it. This Wise game or whatever, I never played it. This Blaster Master, I remember seeing it. I don't think I played it. The Battletech game, I think there was more than just this one. I think there's a few of these. So there was Battletech, and then there was Pool of Radiance, which again, I think there was 3 Dungeons and Dragons games. And these are all IBM PC games. And I wanted to play these, I didn't have a computer, and I don't think any of them came over to Nintendo, so I kind of never got to play them. I always wanted to. Famicom Detective Club, some anime stuff. 88, first year of Madden. First year for Madden NFL. I didn't play it. What was that? That Paradise. I did have this too. I remember getting this too. I really liked the RoboCop. I love the RoboCop movie. Still do. Got it up there in Blu-ray. I really liked the RoboCop game. I remember having this too. Getting this game. I think I got it at when Meyer had the other area out. They had, we can get games there. Wasteland doesn't rings a bell, but I just don't recognize it. The TurboGrafx 16. I wanted one just because I thought it had a cool name, but it never caught on. People were like, yeah, maybe you don't need to get. It's not really that great of a system. And I went to somebody's house and they had a TurboGrafx 16, and I played it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. I had this. This was probably, you know, this is extremely played. I remember I got this, obviously the cartoon's out now. I read, got the comic. I was a huge I still am, but I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan, and then this game dropped on Nintendo, and shit, I played the crap out of that game. And then, this is right about the time, I think, Pride of the X-Men was out-ish. It wasn't the same team, but I remember the X-Men game came out, and then getting the X-Men game, like, oh, these games are awesome. And I was just like, this is the wave of the future. This is like, these are the games that are awesome. And I remember, like I said, when the Sega Genesis came out, I was like, oh my goodness, we're getting a new system. It's all an upgrade. I mean, literally, we thought it was like, just the excitement. And it's so old now. It's just funny. All right, I'm over an hour, so let's kind of wrap this up, because there's not much to talk about in the rest of this list. I think X-Men, for me, that's the last one for me. There was Fire Pro Wrestling. I played it. Mech Warrior. I never played Mech Warrior. Never heard of Mother. Populous. I played it on the Super Nintendo. Prince of Persia. I remember there was a movie and stuff and all, but I remember this cover. Never played it. Saga or whatever it was called. I remember seeing it. Wanted to play it. Never got to play it. Shadow of the Beast. They had this for the Sega Genesis. I saw the cover. It reminded me of Yes. I think it's Roger Dean, or it's Rodney. I think it's Roger Dean doing the stuff, and I was like, oh, I like that. Never got to play, or never ended up getting it. SimCity, Sims. That's when they started. And then Dragon Slayer. Never played that either. So for me, this really the cutoff of the 80s. And it's funny because the cutoff of the 80s for toys, too, was the Ninja Turtles, and then literally the next year in 1990, or maybe it was 91. I think it was 90, though. That's when the Toy Biz stuff all started coming out. Because the Toy Biz was doing the Batman stuff, and then they did the superheroes, the DC superheroes, was basically just regurgitating the superpowers. And then they got the Marvel license, and then boom, the X-Men. And then, everybody went X-Men crazy, but that's pretty much the end of the 80s for me. Ninja Turtles and X-Men, and then we're off and running into the 90s, ready for the big comic book crash. And then all the other games and stuff like that. So that's my rundown of PC. And like I said, this isn't all that existed, but this is supposed to be like the definitive list of the most popular. And I would say most of the heavy hitters are on here. Like I said, there might be some that I don't see here, but for the most part, I think they're all on here. The ones that just, everybody knows. But, alright. Yeah, because the Batman... Well, maybe the Batman game didn't come out until 90. The Keaton Batman. I know the movie came out in 89. But I don't think maybe... And then Uncle Fester's Quest, I think, was also in 90. Or 90, I think it was. That's a whole other video. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole other video on in order of all the arcade games. But, alright, I got to put some stuff away, and I'm going to go get myself something to eat. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm hungry. So, let me end the video again. Of course, like and subscribe. Tell me your stories. Give me your feedback. Yada, 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 the whole 9 yards. And I will, it's Friday, no, it's Thursday. I'm not going to do a video tomorrow because I'm going to be busy in the afternoon, and then my son's going to be here for the weekend, and I probably won't record a video until Monday. So, and I'll think about what I'm going to do over the weekend, but I might come back and keep building on this. Like I said, I definitely want to do the arcade one. And then I do also want to do like a 90s, early 90s on both of these. Or maybe full 90s, but, the evolution of all this stuff. But, if you didn't grow up back then in the 90s, this is kind of all lost on you. But if you were around my age, little older, a little younger, this stuff should all ring a bell. It should all resonate with you. So, alright, I'll let you go, and I will catch you on the next one. What did I do with my pen? There it is. And I will see you later. Alright, bye-bye.